Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the morning show right here on the new Main Street TV. We're so happy to have you with us this morning on this beautiful Tuesday. And why is it so important that it's a beautiful Tuesday? Well, because tomorrow, not so much. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Before we get to that, we do have our good friend Pete Wilson here with the morning news update. And we also have a special friend from Holzer here to talk about some things. So we always look forward to our guests from Holzer. But Pete is here to do the morning news update, brought to you by Nia Henry, agent for Appalachia Realty. If you are looking to buy or sell or have any real estate questions or needs, give Nia a call, 740-418-4135, and she'll be working hard for you, as she always does. All right, Pete Wilson in the house. What's going on, good buddy?
Okay, well, we have an update on the Mike Moore case.
Okay.
Of course, yesterday, we reported the news that a local attorney, very well known, of course, here in town and in the criminal justice system, Mike Moore, had been indicted by a Jackson County grand jury, charged with 6 different counts of sex-related charges, 3 counts of rape, 3 counts of gross sexual imposition in connection with allegations involving a child victim from a number of years ago. Well, yesterday, late in the day, it was determined that an arraignment will be held 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. They were able to schedule the arraignment because they have a visiting judge. Okay. The sitting common pleas judge in Jackson County, Christopher Reagan, of course, recused himself because, Attorney Moore has practiced before him for years.
Bit of a conflict of interest.
Right.
Pete.
So, they know each other very well professionally. So, anyway, Howard Hall, who is a retired judge from Morrow County, which is north of Columbus, will be the visiting judge, presiding judge of the case. That means that they can go ahead with proceedings. The first thing is an arraignment. Likely there will be a not guilty plea from Mr. Moore. And then the important issue of bond will be determined, what level of cash will be necessary to have temporary freedom there while while the case is being heard. Right. You just don't know. Arguments will be made, I'm sure, by both sides on that. But that is the latest development there. Of course, we'll be continuing to cover that case and what happens tomorrow morning. Okay, big news out of Columbus that affects our neighboring county of Vinton. The sitting 15th District Congressman, Steve Stivers, announced his resignation. There is Steve right there if you're watching on TV or on your computer monitor. Stivers has been a congressman for quite a while representing the 15th District. The 15th District is mostly in the Columbus area to the east, but then it fingers down all the way into Vinton County. And so Congressman Stivers announced that he is going to be leaving effective May the 16th to accept the position of President and Chief Executive Officer of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. So Stivers is a Republican. That means by federal law, my research is that there will be a special election, which I presume will be in November, to temporarily take that seat and at least finish the 2-year term. The last election was at the end of 2020. Congressional terms for the U.S. House of Representatives are 2 years, and so there will be a special election. I probably shouldn't say November for sure because there will be a vacancy there, and I'm not sure how quickly that will be filled and when an election can be held. It will likely be a special election that will be held at the first available time, and that's to be determined as of right now. But Stivers, as we said, has been in there. This is his 6th term, and so he's been congressman for quite some time. He's had a reputation as a moderate Republican. He has received a lot of points for bipartisanship, working with Democrats on different things, and there isn't a whole lot of that going on, right now it seems like. So we give him credit for that. Moving on to the COVID-19 situation, we have had new reports from both the Jackson County Health Department and the Vinton County Health Department, and it's kind of more of the same. Not very many cases, but they're still there. The latest report from the Jackson County Health Department reported 34 new confirmed cases in the 7-day period covering April 12th through Sunday, April the 18th. 34 cases in 7 days. You can do the math, just a little bit under 5 cases per day. The most recent report before that was exactly 5 cases per day. And if you're watching on television, you can see the infographic and see some of the numbers. The number of active cases is still the same. It's staying at 30. That's what it was in the previous report. The number of hospitalizations are at 5 right now. I believe that is up 1. And the situation is such that it's kind of a deal where, there's much fewer cases than there were a month, 6 weeks ago, but they're still out there. And of course, we reported yesterday that the state figures are the cases are actually up a bit, if you look at it raw numbers and on a per capita basis.
I think I was talking to some people, and I don't know if the folks from Holzer can verify this or not, but I think they're kind of concerned that the vaccine is like hitting a plateau where the people that were going to get vaccinated got vaccinated, and the other ones are kind of like not.
Right. Well, we may certainly everybody who could have had a vaccination had that opportunity by now.
They've all, and
there were some maybe hanging back, waiting to see,
so that's a concern.
How things went and how other people reacted to it and so forth. But if you're under the impression that the thing is over, it's not over. It's still there. It's plateauing kind of at a very, very low level. The Vinton County Health Department had another report yesterday. They do reports usually most every day. There is their infographic up on the screen. In Vinton County, they have reported 2 new COVID-19 cases, no probable cases in the last 3 days. In the last 3-day period before that, it was 3 cases in 3 days, so they're staying about the same too, less than Jackson County, but still some cases as well. There were no new deaths in either county. Hospitalizations in Vinton County, if you're looking on the screen, only 2 of those. All right, we do want to remind you about COVID-19 clinics by the Jackson County Health Department. These were announced over the weekend. The next clinic at the First Church of the Nazarene in Jackson, which is their main clinic location, 251 Powell Drive. It'll be Thursday, that's the 22nd of April, from 10 a.m. until noon, and then a afternoon evening session from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. They'll be back there on Saturday, the 24th, at the First Church of the Nazarene from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. People scheduled for a second dose of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine should attend either of these 2 clinics. Individuals 16 years of age and older are welcome to attend any of the health department's clinics, including these 2, to receive their first dose. And once again, we want to remind you in Vinton County, the best way to get your vaccination, if it's through the health department, is to simply make an appointment through the state website. Once again, that is gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov. All right, moving on. We do want to tell you about some big news that came out of the Vinton County School Board last night. Not shocking, but still very important. These are the people that lead the schools. Some major administrative contracts were approved last night. Red Thompson Jr., our man on the Vinton County beat, was up there to report that. Among the administrators who were rehired, and some of them are young folks, they obviously passed muster and they're being brought back for longer periods. High school principal J.J. Milliken, now he is well known in Jackson because he went to Jackson High School, taught here at Jackson High School. That is him on the right. He was granted a 3-year contract to continue as high school principal. The young lady on the left is also known in Jackson County. That is Sarah Henneman. She is the assistant principal at Vinton County Middle School, and she has received a 3-year contract to continue in that role as assistant principal. She is a graduate of Wellston High School. All right, also another person who received a new contract on the administrative side is Brian Thompson. There is Brian right there, separate picture of him. He is the principal at West Elementary, that's out at Allensville. He has been granted a 2-year contract. Now, in this case, not any discussion publicly, but board member Mary Ann Hale voted no to rehire Mike Thompson, or rather Brian Thompson, to a 2-year contract. But all of them were approved. 5-year contracts, we don't have their picture, but it's certainly worth mentioning. 5-year contracts to two other supervisors who have been veterans in the Vinton County Schools, Transportation Director Mike Ozier and Maintenance Supervisor John Zinn. They both received 5-year contracts at last night's school board meeting. Speaking of Vinton County, there will be a prom this year at Vinton County High School. They are doing it this Saturday, as a matter of fact. They met with the health department for the guidelines on how to do it, but the loosening of restrictions at the state level has allowed there to be an in-person prom, not quite like usual. The big difference is that you can dance with your date, but you can't dance with anybody else, and no group dancing, where you do group hugs and everything. None of that. So it's just between you and your date. They're going to do a walkthrough, what they call a walkthrough, before the prom, and they're going to do that, my understanding is, out in the bus circle, outdoors. That will allow for a little bit better spacing and show social distancing. I imagine that may be weather permitting. We'll see how that goes.
Pray for good weather.
We got
right?
umbrellas too, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Or snow shovels.
After the walkthrough, there'll be a dinner, a sit-down dinner in the cafetorium, and then the dance in the gymnasium. There will be an after party as well. That's not school-sponsored. Some parents are getting together to do that. But that is this Saturday, and we know that a prom is in the works at Jackson High School, and I know in some form it will probably happen at Oak Hill and Wellston High School. Well, it was just how it's going to be. When we get those details, we'll be reporting on that as well. All right, we have a vacancy on the 4th Ward Council in the city of Wellston. Jennifer, we remember that Anthony Brenner, who was the 4th Ward Councilman, was recently appointed as Service Director. That left a vacancy on council. Because Mr. Brenner was a Republican, the Wellston City Caucus of the Jackson County Republican Central Committee will get to pick the replacement who will serve the remainder of the unexpired term. That will be through the year 2023. That'll be the next election, through 2021, because that person will have to run this year. It's every 2 years for councilmen in both Jackson and Wellston. And so this person will serve through the remainder of the year, whoever is picked. But that meeting of the City Caucus for Wellston will be next Monday, April 26th, at 6 p.m. at the Wellston City Council chambers. Now, this is being announced publicly because the Central Committee Chairman in Jackson County, Justin Lovett, wants anybody who is interested in this seat, who qualifies. You need to be a Republican, obviously, a registered Republican. You need to live in the 4th Ward of Wellston. You're allowed to put your hat in the ring, so as to speak. It's not an election, it is an appointment. Or you could call it an election by 5 people, because that's how many are on the caucus. The caucus members, by the way, are Tom Clark, Heather Hagan, Adam Massey, John Pelletier, and Cheryl Raymer. If you are interested in and you're in the position of where you live and being a Republican and being an elector, you've got to be a registered voter. If you're interested in being considered for this vacancy, 4th Ward Councilman in Wellston, you can mail a letter of intent with your contact information to the Jackson County Republican Party at Post Office Box 271 in Jackson. So we'll be watching that, and obviously we'll be covering that next Monday. All right, Jennifer, we talked about how successful the Jackson County Flea Market was this past weekend. Were you surprised they had 200 vendors?
Yes, I will say I was.
Right. Well, Angelia Hill, who organized it and was excited about it, she was surprised as well. There is Angelia. She has every reason to smile. She's in her 4-H hoodie there, and she is happy because the event was a big success. A lot of people were happy that they had it, buyers and sellers. Of course, the beneficiary is the Jackson County Fair Board and projects at the fairgrounds to improve it. They're putting the fence around the fairgrounds. I'm not sure what that project is done. They're going to be replacing the roof a little bit later. They're going to do a couple things with the barns and other structures there. The money from this event, the vendors paid for spaces, $10 a spot, and the gate charge for people to come and buy, $1. All that money will go towards improvements at the fairgrounds. And you can see that's one of the shots along the midway where a lot of the vendors were set up. Obviously, you could get everything from A to Z if you were there. That was held last Saturday and Sunday. They're going to do it again. The date, I understand, for the next one is May the 15th. That's on a Saturday. I'm not sure it's also going to be on Sunday. We'll find out about that. But they're talking about, to make it more attractive, maybe having entertainment there. So we'll see what happens there. But Angelia Hill certainly deserves a lot of credit for pulling that off. She gives a lot of credit to her parents, who are good Fair Board people. They're both on the Fair Board, David Kaiser and Heidi Kaiser. All right, in the village of Colton, a lot of things going on. Little old Colton, a lot going on. They are doing neighborhood revitalization grant projects, Jennifer. A lot of physical improvements, water lines, sewer lines, drainage work. But one of the recreational projects they're doing is the construction of a new basketball court. Appropriately, there it is. If you're watching on TV and on your computer monitor, that will be a basketball court when it's all done. And appropriately, it's on the property where the old school was demolished. So kids will play there in the future, where there used to be a school way back in 1917, I think, was when that building was built. The Wellston City Board of Education met last night. Our Phil Buffington was there. There's so much to tell you there that we're going to wait and tell you later on that, but they did have their meeting last night. That was their first live meeting in a number of months because of the pandemic, of course. Oak Hill Mayor Paul McNeil wants everybody to know that there's going to be another food giveaway in Oak Hill tomorrow. It will be at 10 a.m. right outside the city building, officially, the Imogene Brunton Davis Memorial Building, 415 Front Street. It'll start at 10 a.m. again. The event is open to the general public, and they will give away food until it's gone. They've had several of these in the past, and he wanted to get the word out. He doesn't want people who are in need to miss out on this opportunity. Once again, tomorrow, starting at 10 o'clock in front of the city building in Oak Hill. Speaking of food, the Jackson Area Ministries is asking you to support their fresh vegetable program. For over 40 years, the Jackson Area Ministries has been enabling families to plant their own vegetable garden. That's another way to help people who are maybe have some food insecurity. They can grow their own food. Applications for tomato plants and vegetable seeds are now available from JAM. You can complete the application by visiting the following food pantries. Here's how you can get involved in that. My Brother's Place in Wellston, the Jackson Food Program Clothesline on Broadway Street in Jackson, and the Grace Place in Oak Hill. You can also get applications at the JAM office. That's at 119 McKittrick Avenue in Jackson. You have to do this by April 30th to participate, so that deadline is coming up. On the sports side, last night, I was there. I hate to report this, but the Jackson Ironmen went down. They've had such a great season.
They have.
But I tell you, they lost to a very good team, Miami Trace, 7-2. The Ironmen beat Miami Trace 13-1 earlier in the season. I think the Panthers remembered that.
I think they did. Wow.
We'll give them credit. Jackson has just been hitting the ball like crazy, but they were limited to 2 runs and 2 hits. It was a Ty Browerman home run that accounted for the Jackson runs. In this particular game, Jackson had some walks and errors that hurt them. But you know, when you play 25 games a year, you're not going to play your best every game.
Correct.
And so Ironman still having a great season at 11-2, but because Miami Trace won the game and got revenge for that earlier loss, they're tied with Jackson for first place in the Frontier Athletic Conference. And last night, Hillsborough beat Chillicothe. They're in a 3-way tie with Jackson and Miami Trace. So we'll continue to cover the home games live on Fox Sports 1330 AM and 105.3 FM. Also last night, some other scores to pass along real quick. Oak Hill and Northwest played into the 9th inning, and it got dark on them or something because they had to stop the game with the score tied. So they'll have to finish that later somewhere. But right now it was a 6-6 tie. River Valley beat Vinton County in baseball 7-5. Meigs over Wellston 1-0 in baseball and softball. Miami Trace over Jackson 12-5. River Valley over Vinton County 5-0. And Wellston over Meigs 9-1. And details on many of these games, of course, will be in the Telegram tomorrow when Todd Thompson, Red Thompson write up all this stuff. Maybe not all of them at once, but they're working on it. So I'm going to give up my seat to the fine folks from Holzer Health System. We certainly appreciate them coming. I know it'll be some very important information to share on health and medical issues locally.
That's
we do thank
exactly
them for
right.
coming.
Hey, thanks, Pete. Much appreciated. All right, and Pete's Morning News Update, always brought to you by our good friend Nia Henry, agent for Appalachia Realty. If you are looking to buy or sell or have any real estate needs, please give Nia a call at 740-418-4135, and she'll help you out along the way. All right, let's head on over now to your zip printing weather forecast. where you can right now, well, look at all those fun things that you can do for your senior, whether you want yard signs, whether you want banners, shirts made, also graduation announcements, all of that available at Zip Printing. So please take advantage of those. And this is the time of the year where you need to. And check out yourtotalmedia.shop for all of the fun things that you can buy at Zip Printing. All right. Craziest weather forecast I've done in quite some time, I can tell you. For today, partly cloudy with highs of 69, so near 70 degrees today. And for tomorrow, there's a winter weather advisory, so go figure. So what's going to happen is today will be pretty with highs around 69. Overnight tonight, the showers start, and the lows get down to around 34 degrees with a wind chill as low as 28 degrees overnight. So really, really dropping down in the temperature wise. Then tomorrow on Wednesday, partly cloudy with a chance of rain and snow. So go figure on that. Highs tomorrow around 47. Chance of rain or snow tomorrow is at 50%. Now here's the one thing that I do need to tell you. Widespread frost in the forecast overnight Wednesday to Thursday. So if you do have anything outside that you are worried about getting frosted, whether it be plants or vegetables or anything of that nature, please get them covered up because they will probably not do very well. All right, and there is the screwiest weather forecast of, well, the month anyway, and but that's all right because we have one of our friends from Holzer here, and we always love when we have guests from Holzer. And today we have a special guest from the OBGYN department, and that is Dr. Andrew Martin. So welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like your people called my people. We're very sunny today.
I think so. We're very bright.
We're like rays of sunshine. All right. So, Dr. Martin, I know that this has been a very challenging year, to say the least, in being in the medical field, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But could you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself so our viewers get to know you?
Yeah. I'm Andrew Martin. I'm from Southern West Virginia originally, a small little town of about 1,000 people. Grew up there, went to undergraduate medical school and residency all at Marshall University in Huntington. Needed a job, and Holzer had a good job. I talked to Adam Ritchie, who's the chair of the OB department, for a long time, had a few phone calls with him, and absolutely love it up here. It's been a blast. It's a small little town. I live in Gallipolis right now, small town, bigger than what I'm from, so I was very happy about that, but I love it so far.
You don't hear Gallipolis is bigger than where I'm from very often.
So, yeah, Gallipolis has a Walmart and a Buffalo Wild Wings. We didn't have anything close to that, so that's...
You're moving up in the world,
I was
buddy.
moving up, yeah, movie theater.
Wow. All right, so this has been obviously a very challenging year for you, and just being in the medical field. I think I spoke to you way back when, maybe at the restaurant, when all of this had kind of started. They didn't know what to do with doctors. Do we save masks and supplies and all of that for emergency situations? I believe you and I had that discussion maybe back then, are we just doing things that have to be done, or are we still taking care of people's yearly needs and that kind of stuff? So how did that all work when a year ago the world came to an end and we all shut down? How did that affect your practice?
It changed things a whole lot there for a while. I think it was middle of March is about when we decided to kind of shut things down. We were still seeing our obstetric patients. They have to be seen.
Sure.
There's nothing you can do about that part. Annual visits, well women checks were kind of put on hold. And we were still seeing problem visits. If anybody's having any trouble, issues with their periods, things like that, we could handle that kind of stuff. But for the most part, we did a lot of phone calls, called a lot of medicines in, just that we normally probably wouldn't call in without being seen, birth controls, contraception, things of that nature. But yeah, everything was just kind of put on hold. It was a very weird time in my career. I'd only been out for 9 months at that point, probably from residency, and then all of a sudden the world comes to an end with a pandemic. So it was very strange, to say the least. But we put surgeries on hold. It was different. It definitely was.
And that's well, it just has to be tough because you have to decide what. You don't want to say nobody's important, but what is deemed important at that point. And, back then, there was a shortage of gloves and masks and sanitizers and all of those things. So I feel like hospitals every day were having to kind of make those decisions on the fly. And, boy, that's rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. One of the reasons we stopped annual visits is, you essentially need gloves for every well woman check. You're doing a breast exam, pelvic exam. So that was an easy way to just stop shorting gloves there. I will say afterwards, though, as the glove supply, mask supply started increasing, Holzer actually started reaching out to women that hadn't had their annual exam in a few years. Not just, hey, we missed you because of COVID. It was a couple of years, and we had a massive surplus of annual exams, which is a good thing.
No, that's a wonderful thing.
That's very important, I think.
That's really good. It's good to hear. Sometimes out of weird stuff comes good. So
yeah, that is very true.
Maybe some of those women would not have come in at all.
Yeah, until somebody reach out to them.
Yeah. So, okay, let's back up for a minute. OBGYN. Let's talk for a minute about what an OBGYN doctor does, because you all cover a large gamut of healthcare.
We do. So that's a very good question. So it's an abbreviation, as most of the things in our field are, it seems. So the OB part of it's obstetric care. So that includes before people get pregnant, so preconceptual counseling. I wish that happened a little bit more sometimes, but you should be taking your vitamins before you get pregnant. You should get any medical conditions in check before you get pregnant, these kind of things. And throughout the entire pregnancy and then even the postpartum period. So, and it can be a couple of months past delivery could still be considered the postpartum period, about 6 to 8 weeks. But sometimes can even be a little bit longer depending on what the issue is. Then the gynecology part of it essentially is well women health care. It starts, honestly, as early as you really want. Young girls, when they first start their menstrual cycles, if they're heavy or irregular, or they're worried, or they just want somebody to talk to, we're always there for them. We can try to help regulate things like that, and that goes all the way through even postmenopausal women. So we have a large age range. We start early and we see people until the end of life, which is one of the reasons I kind of chose this field. It's a very interesting field. You kind of build really good bonds with your patients for that reason. So
I could see that, and that brings me to my next question. How early should girls be coming to see you? And what I mean by that is there's like this fine line between your pediatrician and what they handle, and then making that jump up to the next level, which would be coming to see you. Is there an age limit or an age when girls should maybe leave their pediatrician for that kind of care and come to you? How does that work?
That's a very good question, and we have very good pediatricians. They do a lot of very good
Yes.
Female care. Honestly, they do a lot of really good things with contraception. There are some contraceptives that they can't put in, they can't place, so they send them to us. But if somebody's menstrual cycle is completely irregular, or they're having very heavy bleeding or any issues with it, a lot of the times the pediatricians will recommend coming to see us or even refer us. But really, anytime. As soon as you start your menstrual cycle, from then on out, anytime you have issues, we're always there for you. We'll take care of you yearly. We'll do what we need to do. It doesn't always involve a pelvic exam, which younger girls are worried about, understandably so.
Yeah, I'm still worried about it.
But no, actually, most of the time they don't involve a pelvic exam. It would be only if you're having really bad issues at that point in time. It's mostly informational talking and then just providing some education at those appointments and working through issues that way, which is nice.
Well, and let's just be honest. I mean, coming from a woman's standpoint, some of this stuff is embarrassing to talk about. Some of the stuff maybe you don't want to admit or you don't want to talk about, but you need to. It's very important.
Yeah, it is.
And it's okay to come and talk to you.
It is. And that is one of the things I do with all my younger patients. If a family member brings them, somebody brings them, I ask them to step out a lot of the time because
I was going to say, can you do that?
You can do that.
Okay.
It is completely confidential between me and my patient. It has nothing to do with me not wanting somebody in the room. But a lot of the time, a younger patient may not want to talk about if they're sexually active or if they need contraception or if they're having issues in front of their family member. And so you ask them to step out, and it stays between just you and them. It's a HIPAA violation otherwise, so it's completely confidential. And I think that helps a lot. It allows them to open up, ask questions. They're allowed to, that's the big thing is sometimes they just want answers.
Sure. You don't know what, to be honest, you don't know what's happening to you sometimes.
Exactly. And I, like I said, I grew up in Southern West Virginia, and our health classes were informational, but they probably weren't nearly to the point they should have been. And that's not the fault of anybody in particular. It's just how the education system is set up at this point in time. So,
oh my God, all they have to do is show that video of the baby being born and ain't nobody doing anything.
Exactly. Those videos are
I'm just
crazy.
teasing about that. That was a bad joke.
No, they're rough.
But boy, that was, that takes the cake for sure. Especially for high school kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So we've talked about, folks of women of a younger age. Is there ever a time when you're too old to go to the OBGYN or you don't need to go to the OBGYN anymore? I feel like your OBGYN in your life will pretty much follow you throughout your life because women change so much over time.
Yeah, that is very true. So if you're looking at just Pap smear guidelines, as long as you've had normal Pap smears and no issues there, we can actually stop Pap smears at age 65. However, some Medicare will still reimburse for Pap smears, and some people want to continue with their Pap smears. Life changes happen. People get remarried, things like that, so that kind of stuff can change things. So if people want to continue their Pap smear, I'm more than willing to do that. Most OBGYN providers are, I do believe. I don't know that there's a dead set age that we should stop annual women checkups. Breast exams are still important. The risk of cancer decreases as we get older and older, but it's still there. We still have a risk. And I think it's important. A lot of the times, especially in rural areas, OBGYN providers are kind of treated as a primary care physician. They don't take care of just women care. We take care of some blood pressure issues. Some people take care of some diabetes issues, things like that. We do a lot of the vaccinations, at least recommend what ones to get and things. So I think it's important. People build a special bond with their OBGYN provider, I do believe, and that it allows them to feel to trust this provider and to want to see them and have them take care of them. So I think it's important to continue up until, honestly, if you're 85 years old and you feel you don't need to get a Pap smear anymore, I think that's probably okay.
But you do what your doctor says, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
No, it is, and again, it's confusing. There's no book out there for women that tells you when you should start or stop doing certain things or whatever. So, can we go by decades? Like in your 20s, you should be doing this. In your 30s, you should be doing that. Or is there a way for women to know? Do I go get my Pap smear every 2 years? Do I go every year? Do I go every 5 years? Like how do women know what they're supposed to do?
So that's a good question. So annual exams are just that, they're annual. So the Pap Smear part of it's where the years kind of break up a little bit.
Okay.
So before the age of 30, the current guidelines for Pap Smears, before the age of 30, as long as it is a normal Pap Smear, you can actually wait 3 years in between Pap Smears.
Okay.
Now, you should still get your annual exam, and some practicing OBGYNs still do annual Pap Smears as long as the patient's okay with it, if that's what they want. And that's actually how I tend to practice. I still do annual Pap Smears at this point in time. I explain to the patient the guidelines. After age 30, we start adding HPV testing to the Pap Smear as well. It's called co-testing. So we're not only just checking the cells, but we're also checking for HPV virus, which tends to be what can lead to cervical cancer. And when we do the co-testing like that, if it is completely normal, they actually say we can space out Pap Smears to 5 years. That seems a little long to me, but the data supports it. I mean, it's scientifically studied. It supports it. But again, if patients still want a yearly Pap Smear, I still am currently doing yearly Pap Smears. I explain the guidelines to them. Now, if there's any abnormalities, that changes the whole ball game there.
Sure.
And then it continues from age 30 up to 65 that way. At 65, like I said earlier, if you've had 20 years of normal Pap Smears, I think is what the guideline states, and no issues in the past, then we can actually stop Pap Smears at that time.
So, okay, let's get a little technical for a minute. So, when you're doing a Pap Smear, you're scraping cells off the cervix, correct?
Correct.
And what are you checking for there?
You're checking for cell abnormalities.
And you mentioned HPV, so let's talk about that for a minute too.
Okay, so when you do the actual Pap Smear itself, you're taking a Pap Smear broom, essentially, is how we do it nowadays. And it's got these little bristles on it, and it just kind of scrapes the top layer of cells off the cervix. Okay. Those get sent to pathology in a little container. They look at them under a microscope and decide if they look abnormal or not. And how abnormal they appear. They look at different features of the cells. From there, they can actually run the HPV testing off of that vial of cells as well. So if we say, yes, we want HPV testing, if something comes back abnormal even before 30 and we decide we want HPV testing, we can do it then. And they can just send that from the lab.
So in one sense, you're talking about checking for like cancer cells, I assume, and then the other HPV is actually a virus, correct?
Yes. So the cells, precancerous is normally, I guess, the better term. It's rare that somebody comes in with cervical cancer nowadays because of Pap Smears. Actually, Pap Smear is probably one of the best tests that's ever been invented for preventing cancer. Yeah, we're looking for precancer cells, just cell abnormalities. They don't give us a diagnosis.
Something that doesn't look right.
Something that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
That's how I explain it a lot of the times to my patients, because I think it makes the most sense.
Right.
And it triggers a whole nother list of things we need to do if something comes back abnormal. It isn't just you have this, it's a more in-depth biopsy a lot of the times, which can lead to more in-depth treatment if needed. The good news is especially for younger people before age 30, a lot of the times they clear these things. They clear HPV, so that's why we're not as aggressive before age 30. There's guidelines on when we should do what we should do, how we should do it, kind of thing, and they're pretty well in place, so it's kind of nice. But then when we're looking for the HPV virus, after age 30, if you have the HPV virus, we're probably going to do a little bit more invasive testing, just because after age 30, it's been shown that you don't seem to clear it as easily as somebody that's a little bit younger than that.
So what exactly, is that a sexually transmitted virus, or is it, what is that exactly? Because, and the reason I'm asking is you see all these commercials about they have like a vaccine or a shot, not a vaccine, is it a vaccine?
It's a vaccine,
okay.
Yeah.
Should your child get, should you give this to your child? Should you not give this to your child? So I guess that's why I was asking the question, because, it's on TV, so they can't be lying.
Yeah, it is sexually transmitted. A lot of adults actually carry the virus, probably have cleared the virus. Men tend not to have any issues from it.
So you're saying that, like, your body takes care of it itself.
The body,
When you say clear the virus.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of the time the body will clear it away.
Okay.
In the younger age groups, men tend not to have any issues from the virus. Women and men both can get genital warts from the virus. There's a bunch of different types of the HPV virus. The two we worry about are HPV 16 and 18. Those two tend to be the two that we really worry about causing cervical cancer, but we also check for the others. You brought up the vaccine, which I think is a great vaccine. It is probably, as of right now, the only vaccine that could potentially prevent cancer. It's the Gardasil Vaccine. It covers 9 types of the HPV virus, so it covers the high-risk ones, 16 and 18, and then 7 other ones as well currently.
Wow.
So it's very, very good vaccine. We started in children. It just got expanded to a longer age group recently. I think we can start as early as age 9. And it's actually recommended for boys too, because boys tend to be a carrier of the HPV virus. So, so boys and girls starting at age 9 can get it. It's a very good vaccine. It's very safe. It's probably one of the most studied vaccines because we are giving it to so many children, and we're pushing it so hard. So.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it too. It's one of the only vaccines in the world that could prevent cancer.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
That's pretty cool.
And it's been under scrutiny for years and years, but it's been well studied, and it's a very, very good vaccine. So very safe.
Absolutely. Okay, so other than Pap Smears, what are some of the other, getting on to the older generation, as I feel as if I'm entering that, what are some of the other tests that one does? You know, let's talk about mammograms and some of the other tests that you would do as women age a little bit.
So in general, at age 40, we start mammograms.
Okay.
I think they do those annually. They're a very important test. We sometimes start them earlier based on patients' family history and things, but 40 tends to be the guidelines. We're doing a breast exam every year with our annual exam as well, but the mammogram really kind of shows us inside the tissue as well, which helps out. We're filling, but maybe we miss something just because we can't fill it because it's too small, but the mammogram might pick it up. And then, we're talking about different vaccinations and things as well. Shingles vaccine in the older population. At age 65, we also start Dexa scans. So that is a bone scan to look for osteoporosis, osteopenia. It's a very important scan. So essentially, estrogen helps keep women's bone health very, very, very good most of the time. At age 65, most women are the vast majority of women are postmenopausal at that time, and they've been without estrogen for quite a few years. So we want to check their bone health and see what their risk of a major break is at that point in time in their life. There's some medications we can use to try to help that and try to prevent hip fractures and things of that nature.
Women are so confusing.
That's very true.
Saying that to a guy, right?
Yeah.
No, there's just a lot of stuff that happens along the way.
There is.
A lot of changes.
A lot of changes. And it's, like I said, it's probably one of the reasons I like the field so much, because you start so young and the whole process is just, it's a giant process of changes, and it's kind of interesting.
It is. You're right. And nature, what our bodies do on its own.
Exactly.
Kind of wild. All right, so let's get into the fun part of what you get to do, and that's babies, right?
That is definitely the biggest reason I chose this field. It's absolutely a blast. I love it. The first delivery I ever did as a medical student, the first one I was ever in, I was standing there, and Mom started crying after the baby came out, and then Dad started crying. Grandma was crying. Next thing I know, I'm crying. I wasn't even really sure why, but it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. So it was very interesting, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything. It's a very special moment. You get to be a part of this person's life. I mean, that's maybe a once in a lifetime experience for them, and you get to be there with them. So I just think that's awesome.
And guide them along the way. Mm-hmm. And again, there's books about this, but until you've carried the child and done all that, you don't know all the ins and outs of it. And every pregnancy can be different as well, even for the same person. So I'm sure that you have to do a lot of monitoring along the way with that.
Yeah.
Up until the actual birth. And then, where does the OBGYN care stop and the pediatric side start?
So, kind of once the baby comes out, once the cord's clamped and
it's
cut.
Not mine anymore.
Yeah. One of the doctors I used to work with used to say a lot of the time, we're going to make this a pediatric issue at this point in time when we would go to deliver a baby. Jokingly, it was a joke, but obviously we're there if the baby needed resuscitation or anything, we're all trained to help out. But once the baby's detached from mom, it's a pediatric patient at that point in time.
Okay.
But the obstetric care for mom's still there.
Sure.
And that goes for weeks, and honestly, a lot of the times then it switches over to GYN care. So that's a kind of a gray area of when it stops being OB care and when it starts being GYN care. So, but yeah.
I don't know how you all know how to do all this stuff.
Takes a lot of years.
I guess so. Jeez. Okay, so we've talked about kind of the annual visits. Are there just things that you would recommend that women do every day to ensure the best health that they can have? Do you recommend they take a prenatal vitamin even if they aren't planning on having a baby, or just a regular vitamin, or no vitamins, or what are the things that women can do to ensure their health?
So that's very good. So if you are attempting to conceive, or it's in the near future, it's never a bad thing to take prenatal vitamins. They're not going to hurt you at all. They're actually very good for you.
Yeah.
But if that is anywhere in the near future, it's a good idea to go ahead and start your prenatal vitamins. Once a day vitamins are very good as well. If you're not of childbearing age, you're on a long-acting reversible contraceptive, something of that nature, it's a good thing to continue with vitamins. I know every doctor always beats in diet and exercise, but these are very, very important. One of the biggest problems our country's facing right now is obesity. We don't talk about it very often, but there's a lot of problems that come along with obesity, a lot of healthcare problems. And it's important to start diet and exercise, especially if you're planning on trying to get pregnant. This can help regulate periods. This can help conceive. It can get things in a lot better shape for when you do get pregnant. Pregnancy tends to be a little bit easier. So there's a lot of issues that come with that. So, diet, exercise, multivitamins, prenatal vitamins are all very important. Staying up to date on any medical issues you do have, trying to make sure they're checked out and taken care of if you're planning on getting pregnant, or even if you're not planning on getting pregnant. So.
Yeah, just take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just in general, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
In this day and age, wear your mask.
I know, right?
That's
a whole other issue
that
we've thrown on top of it.
Yeah, so.
For sure. Okay, so speaking of COVID, okay, so we were joking off the air, but this really is a thing. All of these COVID babies are being born now, right?
Yeah,
so,
I feel like it.
Because let's just be honest, people didn't have anything else to do. So, what do you recommend? As if it's not hard enough to be pregnant and carry a child, let alone in an age where there's a global pandemic going on. What are some of the extra things that people need to do, if any?
It seems the pandemic has kind of not left the news, but it's not the top story in the news anymore, but it's still very active. I think it was the last article I saw was 38 states, I believe, have had an 11% increase in their COVID positive numbers, which is a large increase. As much as you can socially distance, still try not to go out to places you don't have to go to. Going to the movie theater, I would love to go back, but I still haven't been. It's just not somewhere I think I need to go right now. If we're talking about pregnant moms, stay as safe as you can. Wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer. If significant other can go to the grocery store instead of you. Now, at the same time, you've got to get out of the house sometimes. I understand that. Being outside's better than being cramped up in a Walmart with thousands of other people. But, it happens. Sometimes you can't avoid it. You need that. Just be safe. Wear your mask.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Try not to touch your face as much as possible. The other big hot topic is vaccinations for pregnant women.
So yeah, I was going to ask you about that, or how is, if you, God forbid, get the virus while you're pregnant, is that How is that affecting things?
So we'll start with the virus if you're pregnant, and it'll kind of lead into my deal on vaccinations with pregnancy. But the virus, while pregnant, any respiratory virus when you're pregnant can be bad. The flu can easily put you in the ICU. I've seen it multiple times. It's scary. COVID is worse than the flu. Your risk of ICU admission increases. Your risk of ventilation, needing a ventilator, increases. Risk of hospitalization increases. Luckily, we've had a few COVID patients that were pregnant at Holzer, and as of right now, all of them have done very well. I think at the hospital at one time we only had like one pregnant patient admitted so far, which is very, very good. Statistically, we haven't had the number of pregnant COVID patients to see those bad things yet, which is good. We don't want those bad things. Those are not fun. But COVID and pregnancy is very serious. We're watching you very closely. We still see you for your OB checks. Obviously, we would normally bring you in at the end of the day, kind of sequester you off in the hallway so you're kind of by yourself. But it's very scary. If mom's not breathing well, if mom's not getting the oxygen levels she needs, the baby's not getting the oxygen levels the baby needs as well. So it's a very scary time. So that's what kind of leads me into vaccinations when pregnant. So the CDC and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology both say the vaccine should be safe in pregnancy. Now the data is not out. Pfizer, I think came out with a little bit of data that says, hey, looking at this over the last 6 months, it seems to be safe in pregnancy, which is great. It's not the way vaccine trials in pregnancy are normally done because they didn't really have much of a chance to do them this time. But ACOG and the CDC both recommend the vaccine, especially if you're healthcare workers and you're an at-risk population. ACOG in their statement says, do not hold the vaccine from any pregnant woman seeking the vaccine. The type of vaccine it is should be safe in pregnancy. It shouldn't cause any issues. Another big problem people worry about is, what if I get the vaccine? What are my chances of getting pregnant afterwards? Is it going to affect fertility at all? And based on the type of vaccine, there should be no way it affects fertility.
And can you, without getting into some, hour-long discussion on that, when you say based on the type of vaccine, could you kind of expound on that a little bit so people understand what you're saying?
Yeah. So it uses mRNA from the virus, not the virus itself, not the actual virus, but part of the information from the virus, and then it injects that. Our body kind of makes the protein spike that's on the virus, and then we build up antibodies to that. So instead of injecting us with a dead virus or a live virus, it's actually just a part of the information that makes up the virus, and then we fight that off essentially. And then if we do get the virus, we fight it off before it becomes an issue, would be the hope, which is kind of nice.
Gotcha, yeah. And that's why they're saying even if for some reason you would have gotten the vaccine and still would get COVID, it wouldn't be nearly... It's pretty effective of keeping people out of the hospital and really sick.
It's a lot like the flu vaccine. You may still get the flu, but you have the antibodies. It may take them a minute to ramp up, but it should be a lesser version of the flu if you get the flu after you've been vaccinated.
I'm all for that.
I am too. At the day that we got the vaccine and it was available for healthcare providers, I was actually off that day, and I got a text message, hey, do you want to get vaccinated? I said, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I got up, was dressed, went straight there and got it. I was right there for it. It's very important to me. I have older family members. I don't want to spread COVID. I'm in the healthcare field. I see patients all the time. The problem with COVID, you don't know who has it and when they have it. And I'd like to see my family at some point in time, my grandma, my grandpa.
Right.
So I'd like to see them at some point in time. So I thought it was very important.
And that makes total sense. And it's interesting just, walking around the restaurant, talking to people. And I feel like they just have this sense of relief, I guess is the word, but almost like freedom in a way where they feel as if there's like a light at the end of the tunnel maybe. And it is, going and getting that vaccine, you feel, while you still have to be safe, you feel free a little bit.
You do.
Okay, we're on the right path here.
We are. And I think that was a big thing when that vaccine got approved. I think Pfizer was first and then Moderna, if I'm not mistaken, but they both got the emergency use the CDC or from the FDA. That was just, it was like like you said, it was almost like a light at the end of the tunnel for the pandemic. The pandemic's been going on for over a year now. When it first started, it was China, and then Italy, and then Europe, and then the U.S. just got slammed. And people didn't really know what to do. And the best solution at that time was stay inside, don't go anywhere. And that's scary being told that. Now
buy lots of toilet paper.
And buy lots of toilet paper for whatever reason. It's a respiratory virus,
know why.
but the vaccine's been awesome, and I think the scientists and everybody that really put in the work. That's crazy that they were able to pump out a vaccine in less than a year, and millions and millions of doses have already been given. The last report I saw, and this has been almost 2 weeks ago, I think, over 100 million Americans had already received at least their first shot. So we should be well over that now, and that's crazy. That's awesome. There's 340 million people in the U.S., so and
and
percentage of those are children.
Here in Ohio, I thought that I saw a stat yesterday where like exactly 50% of people that could be vaccinated have gotten vaccinated. So that's pretty darn good
that's
for
awesome.
us.
I mean, as much as everything in the world is political anymore, I think I thought the vaccine was going to be a lot more political than it was, but I think it was seen as good from both sides. Gets us back to normal.
That, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to argue. Hard to argue getting back to normal.
Health is hard to argue.
It is, but
although
somehow
Congress
people do.
Can still find a way to do it.
They do. Yeah.
All right, so Dr. Martin, it has been such a delight talking with you today. I feel like we could talk for another hour or so, but we need to get patients in to see you. And are you accepting new patients?
I am. I'm always willing to see patients. My schedule is getting full, but there's always slots. We always find some way to fit somebody in if we can. So that's a very good question. People can call in. The number is 855-446. 5937. Sorry, those last four always get me. I always want to say 5357.
For Holzer.
For
Just
Holzer.
Remember that.
Yeah. For Holzer. You can sign in online and set up an appointment as well, and we'll get you in as quickly as we possibly can. So.
And very good. Whether it be just you've never gotten set up with an OBGYN or maybe you're having an issue, like it could be anything. Just give them a call and they'll get you in and take a look.
Exactly. And we tend to get people in pretty quickly. Problem visits almost always get seen the same day or within a day or two. There's always an on-call provider, and they tend to have slots open, and we try to get people in as often as we can. Even for annual exams, it's normally within a week or so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty quick. If you're having any issues, we can get you in.
Very good. And I do have another question. Where are you seeing patients, and are there OBGYN providers at all of the Holzer locations?
So currently I see patients at the Gallipolis office pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Now there's some post-call days in there. I operate on Mondays a lot of the time. And then I'm in Jackson on Thursdays.
Okay.
The rest of the providers, currently we really only go to Gallipolis and Jackson.
Okay.
There's some talk about maybe going back up to Athens. We did have a group up at Athens, but both of those physicians left. So we're trying to fill that void, I do believe. But right now it's just Jackson and Gallipolis. But I'm in Jackson almost every Thursday. It's pretty rare that I'm not up here.
So you can come see Dr. Martin, and he will take care of you. So, all right, is there anything else you would like our viewers to know before we let you get out of here for the day?
I really enjoy being up here. Everybody's been super friendly to me in the Gallipolis, Jackson areas. It's been awesome, and I'd love to see you. So always have openings, so come in and see us. We'll take good care of you.
That's right. I believe it, too. And how could you go wrong with a guy that wears a pretty orange shirt?
There you go.
All right, Dr. Martin, thank you so much for coming in. We greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So always great to have our friends here from Holzer. We greatly appreciate them taking time out of the schedule to come and see us because they are very, very busy. All right, before we get out of here, thank you. Did want to thank our friends at Callahan Hardware, your everything store right here in Jackson. I was out at Callahan Hardware yesterday because I needed to, send something via UPS. And a lot of people don't know that, but they can, if you take your box out there, if you don't have a label, they can print one out for you. They can measure it. You can pay them to ship. Or if you just have something that you need picked up, they are a drop-off location as well at Callahan. So just one of the very, very great services that they offer out there, plus all of the wonderful hardware items that they have. Also want to thank Chip and Kathy Smalley at the shop. And if you need any kind of custom engraving done, jewelry, repair, if you need plaques done, trophies for an upcoming event that you may have, maybe you just want to get your mom a World's Best Mom trophy for Mother's Day. Hey, there's a good idea. Give Chip and Kathy a call, 988-2841, and they'll take good care of you. Also, did want to thank Carman the Carman, where the deals are great. Stop out and see them at their lot at the corner of Standpipe Road and State Route 93 South. And if you go past Walmart and keep driving, you're going to run right into Carman's lot, and you'll run into 70 vehicles there, and you can pretty much find anything that you're looking for. And also, if you're looking for something great to eat today, how about a Holzer's Pizza? And you can get that at the filling station here in Jackson or the store at Broadway and Penn and Wellston. They both have drive-thrus, so you can order that pizza. Don't even have to get out of your car as you drive on through, and you can pick that up and keep on going. Speaking of safety and COVID and all of that madness, if you don't feel comfortable going inside, not a problem at all. You can pick up all the things that you need right there. All right, James, anything else, buddy?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Well, party on for the day. Enjoy the warm weather and sunshine today, because it isn't going to be here tomorrow. So get out, do some hiking, enjoy whatever outdoor things you can do today, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow on Wednesday. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.